This market is alive with possibilities. Indeed, we should proceed with caution.
My love, you are my world.
And you will always. This market is full of wonders. We must find the rare herbs.
Agreed. The fruit vendor over there might know.
Let's go.
The grand atrium of the Imperial Concourse shimmered under a dome of living crystal, refracting the light of 1,000 artificial stars into rainbows that danced across marble floors veined with aurium. Thousands had gathered, nobles in iridescent robes, military caste in obsidian armor etched with battle honors, diplomats whose skin shifted colors with calculated emotion. At the center of it all stood Princess Veyra Thalor, last heir of the ancient Thalorian line, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly with restrained bioluminescence. She wore the ceremonial mantle of choosing, gossamer chains of star-sapphire linking shoulder to wrist, heavy enough to remind her of the weight of dynasty. She was 23 cycles old. She felt ancient. The High Matriarch, her grandmother, rose from the obsidian throne at the dais end. Voice amplified by hidden resonators, it rolled like distant thunder. The line must continue. The Empire demands stability. Today, daughter of my daughter, you will select your consort from among the worthy. Alliance, strength, legacy, these are not negotiable. Veyra's hearts beat in counterpoint, one calm, one frantic. She had known this day was coming since she was old enough to understand the word duty. The candidates had been paraded before her for months. Lord Veyra of the Rim ward houses, whose fleets numbered in the hundreds, General Torvax, scar-faced and unyielding, hero of the breaching wars, even the enigmatic Prince Silene from the allied Vale Concord, whose telepathic touch could bind minds across light years. Each one more perfect, more politically advantageous, more suffocating than the last. They stood in a crescent before her now, chests puffed, eyes gleaming with ambition. The crowd waited, breath held. Veyra's gaze swept over them once, slowly, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. Then she turned her head, not toward the dais, not toward the candidates, but to the shadowed alcove near the service doors. There, half hidden behind a column of polished onyx, stood Elias Crow. Human. Janitor. 32 tearing years. Brown hair perpetually mussed from the helmet of his cleaning exosuit, coveralls faded from too many chemical washes, hands calloused and permanently stained with industrial solvents. He held a long-handled sonic mop like a staff, forgotten in the moment. He'd been mopping the same stretch of floor for the last hour, trying to stay invisible while the aristocracy decided the fate of empires. Now every eye in the concourse followed Veyra's line of sight. A ripple of confusion moved through the assembly. Whispers hissed like escaping atmosphere. Veyra lifted one hand. The chains clinked softly. She pointed, steady, deliberate, at the human. Him. The word landed like a kinetic strike. For a heartbeat nothing happened. Then chaos erupted in carefully controlled bursts, nobles gasping, guards shifting weapons, diplomats exchanging frantic glances. The High Matriarch's bioluminescence flared crimson with outrage. Veyra, the old female said, voice dangerously soft, explain yourself. Veyra did not lower her arm. I choose. You choose a cleaner? Lord Veyra's voice cracked with disbelief. A baseline primate from a backwater gravity well? This is mockery. General Torvax barked a laugh that held no humor. The princess jests. Surely. Veyra finally lowered her hand, but her eyes never left Elias. He hadn't moved. Hadn't dropped the mop. Hadn't run. Just stood there, staring back at her with those quiet brown eyes that always seemed to see more than they let on. I do not jest, she said. I have observed every candidate presented. I have endured their posturing, their calculated compliments, their veiled threats wrapped in flattery. And in all that time, only one soul in this hall has ever treated me as more than a womb for dynasty. She stepped down from the dais. The crowd parted instinctively, though many looked ready to protest. Her bare feet whispered across marble as she walked straight toward Elias. He finally spoke, voice low, rough from disuse. "Princess, you sure about this?" She stopped a meter from him. Close enough to smell the faint tang of cleaning fluid on his skin, the honest sweat of labor. "I have never been more certain of anything." The High Matriarch rose fully now, mantle sweeping like wings. "This is impossible. The choosing is sacred. It binds bloodlines, fleets, resources. A human laborer offers nothing. He offers everything I lack," Veyra cut in. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with the release of something long suppressed. "Kindness without agenda. Respect without calculation. He sees me. Not the crown. Not the womb. Me." Elias shifted his weight. The mop handle creaked in his grip. "I mop floors, Your Highness. I don't know politics. I don't speak fancy. I'm nobody." "Exactly," she whispered. A guard, young, zealous, stepped forward, hand on his plasma hilt. "This is treason against the line." Veyra whirled. Her bioluminescence ignited in a corona of violet fury. "Touch him and you touch me. Stand down." The guard froze. The High Matriarch's eyes narrowed to slits. "You would throw away centuries of tradition for sentiment?" "I would burn centuries of tradition if it meant one honest breath," Veyra answered. Tears, rare for Thalorians, gathered at the corners of her eyes. "You forced me to choose a mate. You listed qualifications like I was purchasing a warship. Strength. Lineage. Fertility indices. You never once asked what I wanted. What I needed." She turned back to Elias. Reached out slowly. Her fingers brushed his stained sleeve. He didn't flinch. "I need someone who stays when the room empties," she said. "Someone who asks if I'm cold when no one else notices. Someone who once spent an entire night teaching me how to fold paper birds from recycled shipping manifests because I said I'd never made anything with my hands that wasn't meant to kill or conquer." Elias swallowed. "Those were terrible birds." "They were mine," she said, voice breaking. "You gave them to me." The atrium was deathly silent now. Even the crystal dome seemed to hold its breath. Lord Caelvyr sneered. "A janitor cannot sire heirs worthy of the throne." Veyra's laugh was sharp, brittle. "Then perhaps the throne is unworthy of heirs who value blood over bond." The High Matriarch descended the steps. Age had not diminished her presence, if anything, it had concentrated it into something lethal. She stopped beside Veyra, staring at Elias like he was an insect. "Human," she said. "Do you understand what she offers? What she risks? You would be consort to an empress. Your children would rule stars. Or you would be the reason an empire fractures." Elias met her gaze without blinking. "I understand she's asking me to stand beside her when everyone else wants to stand on her." "That's enough." Veyra's hand found his. Their fingers laced, blue against brown, delicate against rough. The contrast should have looked absurd. Instead, it looked inevitable. The High Matriarch studied them for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she exhaled. Not in defeat, but in something closer to recognition. "You choose with your hearts," she said quietly. "Not your blood. Not your borders." She looked at Veyra. "I once chose the same way. Long ago. It cost me a war, and gave me you." She turned to the assembly. Voice ringing again. "The choosing is complete. Princess Veyra Thalor has named her consort. Elias Crow of Terra. Let no one contest this bond. The Empire will adapt, or it will learn what happens when it refuses to." Murmurs rose, but no one dared challenge openly. Guards stepped back. Nobles averted eyes. The candidates stood frozen, faces masks of stunned fury and dawning humiliation. Veyra didn't care. She tugged Elias gently toward the dais. He hesitated only a second, then followed, mop still in his other hand like a scepter of humility. At the foot of the throne she stopped. Looked up at him. You don't have to say yes. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I already did. Back when I fixed your favorite viewport shutter at 3 a.m. And you thanked me like I'd given you the moon. Tears spilled now, tracing luminous paths down her cheeks. I love you, she whispered. Not as princess to consort. As Veyra to Elias. He leaned down, slow, careful, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met. Soft. Tentative. Then deeper, fiercer, as if all the unspoken nights and empty corridors had converged in that single touch. The atrium watched in stunned silence. Some horrified. Some quietly, secretly. Moved. When they parted, Elias rested his forehead against hers. I'm still gonna mop floors, he murmured. Somebody's gotta. She laughed bright, free, the sound echoing off crystal like bells. Then I'll help. I want to learn. Behind them, the High Matriarch sat once more. Older. Wearier. But the crimson fury in her bioluminescence had cooled to something softer. Approving. The crowd began to disperse slowly, whispers following like aftershocks. Alliances shifted in real time. Power realigned around an impossible axis, a princess and a janitor. Veyra kept Elias's hand in hers as they walked from the atrium together. Chains clinking. Mop dragging softly behind. No one stopped them. And in that moment, between one breath and the next, the most feared empire in the quadrant learned something new about strength. It didn't always wear armor. Sometimes it wore coveralls. And sometimes, when the galaxy least expected it, it pointed straight at the human who cleaned up everyone else's messes and said, simply, him.